Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are connecting from. So we have a great speaker today, and he will have almost 1 hour to share his experience. Before welcoming him, I want to share a few things with you, and also we'll be receiving more people in the meantime. My name is Engin, and as an entrepreneur, I used to attend Startup Grind events in Barcelona, and I really loved it. And then, to my great surprise, I just realized that in Tallinn, the chapter was not active since 2018. There used to be great speakers before, and for 2 years there was nothing. So I decided to relaunch the chapter, and we will continue the tradition with great speakers, of course, just like we begin today. I had 6 weeks of training with fellow chapter directors, and now this is the very first event relaunching Startup Grind Chapter, Startup Grind Tallinn Chapter. About myself, I'm a startup founder myself, and my startup is in travel tech. Hello Experto is a global community of travel experts and travelers for connecting to share travel knowledge. And the company itself is an official partner of this chapter at the moment. And for about Startup Grind, it is the world's largest startup community, educating, inspiring, and connecting more than 3 million people in 600 chapters all around the world in 125 countries. So before COVID, it used to be through physical events, just like everything. And now it's all virtual, just as we are doing now. Of course, we cannot share the same atmosphere, have a drink, or have something to eat together. But this also gives us the opportunity to be able to attend any event in any chapter around the world. Just like that, right now we have attendees from not only Estonia, but from different countries in Europe, US, South America, and from Asia. Startup Grind values are very simple and straightforward. It is give before taking, make friends, not contacts, and help others before helping yourself. So basically, the idea is to contribute and give back to the amazing startup community that we already have in Estonia, and by giving back and sharing. And we are looking for sponsors and partners, and we have lots to offer them. If your company or institution share the same values with us, and if you want to contribute to an amazing ecosystem and receive great value, please get in touch with me. And finally, thanks everyone for joining us today. I hope you will all learn something, and you can contribute with your comments and questions and connect with a few new people. And special thanks for those supporting with a contributor ticket. All these small contributions make us to be able to keep these events sustainable in the long run. So, before giving the space to Timo, I will have a few housekeeping notes. We are using BV at the moment, as you can see, and it is Startup Grind's own platform, and it works best on Google Chrome. So in case you have any technical issues, the best thing you can do is switch back to Google Chrome if you are using Safari, Mozilla, or anything else. You can see the attendee list, and from there you can connect with anyone with a direct message if you want. So use this opportunity just like in a conference. If you see someone that you always wanted to say hi, and please, if you receive a message, do not ignore that and be nice to respond to other people. And we also have the general chat section, which I see you already have discovered. And lastly, we have the Q&A enabled at the moment. So you can leave your questions, and after our chat, we will have around 20 minutes, and we will go all the questions in Q&A section. Please, for your questions, use only Q&A, not the chat. Otherwise, it gets very confusing. So, Timo, if you are ready.
Yes.
Perfect. So Timo is the co-founder and chairman of the board of Pipedrive. And welcome, Timo.
Thank you for having me, Engin, and everybody else in the list of attendees. So it's a great honor.
Yeah, I know that you are very, very busy with work and traveling. So thanks for your time and to share some experience with us. So I want to ask with a few questions about your personal background.
Sure.
Let's not talk about Pipedrive at the moment. Let's talk about you specifically, starting from the very early days when you were even selling books door to door. And yeah, please.
Absolutely. Well, maybe a good starting point is the fact that I was born in the Soviet Union, as I was part of the Union at the time, and so my journey was from actual pioneer, as we had them in Soviet Union, to a Boy Scout, and that was my first exposure to other nationalities other than Estonians and Russians that we used to live with. But yeah, I studied in University of Tartu, majored in psychology, worked a few years as a personal professional recruiter, to find people for different companies as a service, and place them. And then I joined two guys to form a partnership of sales training consultancy, which we carried on with until 2011, pretty much up to the point where we founded Pipedrive with one of the partners. And during that time, I also did a quick door-to-door program, which you mentioned as well, which was interesting because it was somewhere where I didn't know where I was. I knew I was in California, but I didn't know at that time, that was in 2000, that was the heart of Silicon Valley. That kind of tells me of how stupid I was in terms of technology back then. And so I realized that only like in 2010 when we went to California with Pipedrive. So that's pretty much it in terms of professional background, if you wanted to know.
All right. So you mentioned you were recruiting people even earlier, so it should have also an effect in your professional career later on to be able to create an amazing team, I guess. So how connection?
So at least I developed a deep respect towards a job like that, because it's very easy to misread people, and everybody's coming to those situations with a lot of expectations, and it's difficult to find the right match. And I do remember that during this professional career, having 10 interviews a day was really exhausting. So I never went back to that sort of schedule. But yeah, I guess something must have worked for later hirings.
Yeah. And in your early days, can you mention a little bit about the challenges you faced and maybe some failures, if you have done something wrong and you learned out of it?
So it's everything before Pipedrive is what you're asking about?
Yes. For the moment, yes. We are coming to that. And
yeah, I mean, most of my decisions, that's I didn't know at the time that would be a problem, but I realized it later on that was a problem. I would say most of my decisions, with a few exceptions, were the types of decisions which people should not make as easily as I was making them, I think. And what I mean by this is that I didn't really think what I wanted. I was sort of following what others suggested or proposed, and I said, okay, it's a job offer, so I might as well do it. Or it's a partnership offer here, I might as well do it.
I think that's a common problem for many people in even across cultures, not knowing.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. It's easier to, plus it's easier to know what you don't want to, and less easy or harder to understand what you really want to yourself. So I think during the whole kind of probably 15 years preceding Pipedrive foundation, probably I think the auto program was one of the things which I think I made a decision to go there because it's a pretty funky thing to do and quite intense and required a lot of resources and stuff. But everything else was more or less like somebody asked me and said, "You want to do this?" I said, "Okay," because I didn't really think too much about it. And later on, you realize how those things catch you, let's say, because you then understand who you are in relation to what you're doing, or who you are in terms of a role, and then it's either a good match or it's a feeling of friction or deep frustration, depending on how bad it was in terms of like making the choice. I never really felt deeply unsatisfied with those choices, but I always felt that they're really not coming from within me. And I'm really glad about the fact that Pipedrive was coming from deep within me, at least. So I felt very strongly about that decision. But yeah, I would say that was one of the challenges that I learned later on, sort of via symptoms. I didn't know them at the time when I was making those sort of choices. Other than that, I think I was just looking at myself as a guy who just doesn't know what he wants, harm other people, wants to learn something about the world, wants to make money, wants to make friends, like just a regular, and nothing wrong with that. I just struggled a lot with how would I put it, low self-esteem, probably, as many people do, I guess. And for me, those sort of mind games of realizing that I'm not, like my demoralizing message was I'm not as good as everyone else around me, or I'm better than everybody else. And at one point when I realized, I also use it in your mind, which is like others are not better than me either. I kind of got a lot of motivation out of that. So quite a sort of in a way pathetic little internal mind that I had to work with.
And once you realize that you are getting in some way, how could you focus on that and that only, and leaving everything aside? Was that difficult for you?
You mean now more towards the foundation of Pipedrive, or just realizing what I want?
Just realizing what you want, yeah, for them.
I think it is, because once you make a decision which is within you and you realize what it is you want, there's no guarantee that's, I mean, you're just kind of interacting with yourself, and that's difficult. Nobody tells whether it's right. So it's from within. It feels right, but logical mind sometimes can still question, right? So because where is it coming from? Why are you convinced, right? So where's the study? Where's the proof? Where's the confidence coming from? Maybe you're, maybe it's an illusion. Maybe you're high. So I just, at some point, after making a few decisions, also, didn't end up in a place that's the greatest in terms of professional and situations. I just try to listen to what's natural to me more, in all kinds of areas, nutrition, eating, working out and practicing, and just overall living, like what it is that my sort of body and my, I don't know, internal soul, spirit, whatever you call it, what is it that it's drawn towards, and then really pay attention, because those messages sometimes come, they're not loud, they're clear, but if you're drawn towards water, then maybe working out in a swimming pool is a good idea. For example, I realize those things that way quite often. That there are strong messages that we can use, but they're not very clear. So you need to really pay attention and respect that in a way.
And within this journey, how did the ecosystem where you were affect you? Let's talking about ecosystem Estonia and also United States, where you had been, and also if you can compare your experience right now with the countries where you are based, where your company is based.
I'm thinking of ecosystem as others, right? So there's always systems and procedures and things of that nature, but I think that human beings usually get things done either alone or with right? So it's I'm referring to ecosystem at the time when we were moving to the idea of maybe starting some company and that was become Pipedrive after a few years. I do remember that I was noticing that a lot of others have been down that road. First of all, building companies, but also technology companies, and I was quite drawn to the idea of building a company which actually builds a product, and seemed that CRM product, which we were quite familiar with, was something that we were looking for ourselves, and didn't quite find the ones that we found useful. That was missing, and then seeing that there are people around who built strong technological solutions and companies, and they've broken out of of working for a bigger company somewhere else themselves. I think at that time Estonia already had, we had an experience of Skype right there, which was Estonian, half Scandinavian sort of founder group, and that helped a lot because you were able to see, I guess, some of the spin-offs and a lot more technological entrepreneurship sort of coming from that movement. So that was great to see that there were. I think that without that ecosystem, or without sort of from others and long, still short years of experience, but a lot of passion, that would have been very difficult to form what we did form, which is a co-founding group of, some of them sales experience and the others actually having the technological experience. So I was a very, very strong motivator, or a very strong sort of block to have. It's difficult to compare those things to other countries, to be honest, because I'm not in the same position in other countries right now, because we're going when we build an office. It's a more established company, and then we're going to be treated as such. And I've only learned what it is to start from scratch from Estonia and US. That these are the countries which I can really kind of compare. Other countries are more difficult. I can compare in Estonia if you want me to, a little bit.
Maybe you can mention, because our focus is basically Estonia, what do you think can be improved or done in a better way in Estonian ecosystem in order to be more supportive to startups and give them the opportunity to grow? What is your take about that?
I think it's got a good direction. First, really good to see that there's a growing number of founders who are giving back to the same, either mentors to upcoming and entrepreneurs, or investing as angel investors, or forming their own investment funds, and that's how they are giving back to the community. So I think that's really good direction, because for me, this is what ecosystem is all about, that you have people who've gone somewhere and you can kind of very quickly get in touch with them and learn how they did and what their challenges were, or you just use it as an inspiration or confidence that you see that, okay, somebody from here did that, right? Or that's pretty big. And I don't know, I think that the country itself has tried to make sure that startups have a good chance to make it, but I don't think that there's a ton of things that the country can do as well, or governments of the country. it's a small, very, very small market, so it forces everybody to think big from day one if they really want to scale it and make it in a sort of technological sphere, or I think in any field almost, which I think is a good thing. But other than that, I think that the country's done pretty well, making sure that there are grants available. Obviously, depends a little bit on who's actually in positions of power, either ministers or presidents. There are different ones. Some of them favor IT more, and some of them less. So that's understandable. But I think that the other thing is just how the rest of the society sort of looks at what is going on. I don't think that there's a lot of things that we as individuals can do about society. It's a very sort of big, fluid, in a way irrational group of where we are. And I've always noticed that it's probably not the best environment to just try something new in Estonia, because as soon as you're trying, and as soon as you're standing out and going somewhere, there are people who are gonna just look at you and say that you're not gonna succeed. It's who are you? So it's like people trying to bring others down who are trying to make it and create something and speak with higher goals in mind. It's very easy to also be demotivated by the large group of people just looking at you, pointing a finger, and waiting for that moment to come where they can go out and say, I told you so, you're nothing but a bunch of losers, or something. So we have that, but I think that's in every small country. Everybody seemingly knows everyone, and I guess that the easiest way to feel better is to drag others down, rather than lift yourself up to the same level of thinking or imagination. So I think that's just dynamic develop. I think it's better than it was. I think it's still a small country.
Yeah. So talking about these challenges and difficulties, now let's move to your success story, your company's success story. Tell us about how did Pipedrive came from zero in around 10 years to a position where it is now, and can you share a little bit about the experience you had all along the journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't know. This is one really large question, as you know. It's how do you dissect the development of something like that. The easiest answer, and probably also not telling, the most answer would be worked hard.
Right.
But I think that also what comes into this or goes into this is that you have to see something in your mind first, a little bit at least, right? So you have to be a little bit naive about what you can achieve or what you can build, and then the benefit or the luxury for us as founders was that I think Urmas, myself, the founders from a sort of sales background, we pretty much knew what we wanted to build, and that's not always the case. Quite often people have some sort of frustration and have an idea of what they want to do first, and they want to see how it flies. I never felt quite that way. I felt that here's the idea for the product that we have in mind. The question is how quickly we can build it to that level, and whether this is going to be attractive enough to others so that it can become a business. And that's the rational side of things. And I think the sort of more imagination side of things is like, let's imagine what it could be in terms of what the product will look like, and what the customer base could look like, and what it could mean to everybody in terms of financial side of things. And I think that's just something that it's always better if you're able to mind a few ahead, what number you think good. It's 2 years, it's 10, for some is more. But travel ahead and kind of put a flag there somewhere and imagine what is it like that what is it like that you have been able to build by that time. And those sort of exercises, they were not new, at least not for me. So we had done that before in different fields of life, and but always as a student of others who've done that before, making sure that they have really good goals. So for me, that with hard work is just that is the absolute cornerstone, or cornerstones of how you do something like this, and the rest of it in a way becomes a way of doing it, right? So many people you engage. We wanted to have a strong founder group. It was 5. Some people tell that that's too many founders right there. Well, we decided to go that way. We didn't know any better. And I think that the saying, you want to go fast alone, and if you want to go far, go together, really held true for us over the time. So we started hiring others people to make sure that we can do it together rather than us being the smartest people in the world. So finding the right people into the company was crucial from day one, basically, I would say. But yeah, I go back to the same thing, which is the small country, small markets. There's no way that we can satisfy even our own needs of our salaries by just serving the small with the with the price points that we had in mind. We knew that it has to be from day one, and that's what we tried to do from the beginning to build for that sort of reality.
Yeah. And with the last investment round, you became the recent unicorn of Estonia. First of all, congratulations, big congratulations about that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always that these things kind of become a little bit bigger than they are. I think it's still a milestone for a company, but humans like to name things and tag things and categorize things into, oh, this is the line of valuation where we're going to call you a unicorn. But I never really look at it quite that way. I just want to make sure that there's value which is being created for customers and value for people who are working internally, and if there's really good energy going, then and smart people are at it, something good should come out of it, right? But easier said than done. Always comes down to how you execute, right? How you plan and how you go about realizing those plans. But yeah, it's that's how it's called in the vocabulary.
I'm sure you and your co-founding team were only focused on delivering the best product possible, not to become a unicorn or whatever
No.
So it came back by like a side.
Yeah, and I think it has to, because I don't think there's a direct way to something being of X amount of dollars value. There's just, you do that. It has to be valuable for someone. Whatever you're doing, right? Whether you're knitting a basket, or whether you're building something, or whether you're delivering a service, it has to be valuable for somebody. Valuable enough that they would say that I want the money and want it again and all that. And once you're able to do that, I mean, even that is not under your control, whether people will actually feel that way. They need to experience that, and depending on the relations and standards, you're going to learn. But I think what we did pretty well was realizing, I mean, that's something which I picked up in door-to-door sales already, is that there are so many things which are outside of your control, and you can go nuts thinking about them. So the only thing that you can really do is just focus on what you can do, and see what happens. Basically, let the results kind of either come if you're worthy of them based on what you're doing, or they're not coming. Usually some results come.
Yeah, the reason I asked you this question was that because in startup ecosystems, I see a lot of, not everyone, of course, but some people who are maybe focused on the money or these tax or whatever numbers. But I wanted to hear your opinion about what is important actually, as you said.
Yeah, and at the same time, I'm a student of how things can be done as well. I mean, I do think that things can be done differently, and everybody has their own unique way of processing the world and making sense of it. And I've seen people who are hugely motivated by money and financial returns, and it almost feels as if that's what they are directly getting their fuel from, and it kind of works, and everything else becomes like a little bit secondary, but what they're good at, and they just go there. I just know that myself, it really worked that way. I just became a train wreck of if I tried to sort of think how I'm going to make that money. I always had goals which were essential in nature. So it's not to say that I didn't visualize, or trying to visualize what sort of results we could be achieving or should be achieving. But a way to get there was always, okay, so what do we do, right? Rather, how can I get that money? But what do in order to achieve results which would hopefully give us that sort of a revenue or that sort of valuation, that's different ways of businesses. I'm not saying that our way of building is somewhat superior to others. I don't think so. I've seen so many different.
And what will be the next steps be for Pipedrives for the near future? What can we expect to hear from the company?
I think the good thing about Pipedrive is it's by now an established company with more than 600 people working, and figuring out what can be done to help our customers now and in the future. So even though I understand the question of what's the next step, I don't think the Pipedrive is standing and trying to think of what is the next step. It's a motion, and it's a unit in motion. So I would say that a better way to phrase it would be like what seems to be the direction, and I think the direction is still what we have tried to do before, which is people who are trying to earn a living in a sphere of small and medium businesses in the world. All of them know that if you can figure out how you can sell successfully, you're going to be pretty good as a business like that. There are so many other problems that you also need to figure out, but if you can't figure out how to sell, so that you're going to be in trouble either immediately or in a very near future. So for us, the group of people that worry about these things and are motivated, about those things, this is who we want to serve, and that's what the product is also being designed and will be in the future also designed for, which is basically that if you have a goal in mind that you want to get to, whether it's a revenue goal or I want to sell that many items, and you want to do it not just you but the whole group, the whole sales organization of the company, and you want to achieve certain results as a business where this sales organization also is in, then that's what type of challenge that we want to help our customers with, which is not only that, but it's a little bit more, at least directionally. That's what I feel very strongly about, is that there is a way of achieving those results, especially when you calculate in all the wins along the way and all the losses along the way, which can make you feel that I'm going to reach those results like no matter what. It almost feels like a guarantee, but I just need to figure out a good way of working. I need to put in all hard work in order to do that, because I sometimes I feel that it's basketball analogy, if people follow that sport, really good professionals know that if they have a good shot, they can make a certain percentage of those shots. So the goal for them doesn't really, evolve around can I make it, can I make it, can I make it. It's much more how can I generate myself a good shot position, basically. How can I free myself from a defender? All those sort of things that you do in sports like that. And how can I be in a best possible position to attempt the shot which I've practiced for. And they really focus on that, and then they let their professional skills then kind of come through, and then sometimes they go 0 for 10 and that's it, and sometimes they go 3 for 10 or 4, and depending on the level. And I think that's the same also in sales, is that we have skills, and it's just a matter of whether we feel that we have confidence in our skills as well. So for Pipedrive, it's working with our customers continuously and trying to help them all through the sales process, rather than just manage plan, which we started with early on. But for me, this has never been the sales cycle. You can't only focus on opportunities, you have to focus on how you manage it and how you manage existing customer base, and also how you manage the whole ecosystem that is contributing to how we make sales in this company. So it's gonna, I think in time the Pipedrive is gonna expand but it's always gonna be, at least that's my opinion, centered around the heart of sales.
Right. I have many other questions prepared actually, but to keep
Sure.
up with time and to allow other people's questions, I will just ask you a few more. How was your company's reaction to COVID? And as a B2B SaaS company, maybe it was not affected that much, but yeah, how was your reaction? How did you work during this time?
Again, I got to speak for myself. I think that the restrictions that were put in place globally definitely affected businesses around the world. And I was curious about how it's going to affect our business because a lot of small businesses were hit hard, and medium businesses were hard, and large businesses were kept alive throughout. I think much more by governments. And I think that our business model of our customer base, which is not really retail much, but much more around the not the sort of like transactional of the sales, but much more like projects and long and hard grinding process of closing over months. I noticed that those companies were quite adjustable to the which they found themselves in, and it took some time though. So how did we react? So we just wanted to pay attention how our customers are doing in different places, and we expected that some of them will be going through a harder time. So we expected that we should facilitate some sort of a program for them that for the time that they feel that they will be hit hard, we are there for them, and then we can adjust our service agreements with them. And for those who be that's of their business, obviously we can't do anything about. Just to emphasize, but also that is I would say for a period of 3 months or so, we did feel a sort of effect which you have to conclude was the result of all those global restrictions and also adjustments that the companies were making. We, as a business, that the revenues weren't coming quite the same way, and the impact was there. But then all those programs that we try to figure out what we need to do also, I think, helped a little bit, and also the companies adjusted, and the ones that felt they're going to be in a bad situation, most of them actually got through their own adjustment, and they continued on the same path for us. And the business model, I think, for us, which is very small portions of revenue from every one of our customers really helps. So we're not dependent on any large deal, and going through times like this, I think it helps.
All right. And there is very tough competition in your very specific market. When we look at the CRM alternatives, there are all big players, and we hear big acquisitions lately. So how do you compete in this very challenging environment?
I think that to have an opinion of how you serve someone, and I'd like to think that we've had that, and hopefully we're going to continue with that. It's not easy to win somebody's heart and mind, but it's definitely very easy to lose it. So recognizing, I think, a couple of things. One is that, who is the customer and what they're experiencing. What is the pain that they are most affected by or want to get rid of, and then focusing on serve whatever opinion tells you need to serve. And I do think that when you focus on these things, the competition is still there, but it becomes maybe looks less intimidating, I would say, because you just don't have enough time in your hands to think about who else is doing their work. And I think it's a really good thing for people to, a really good mindset for people to have when they're serving someone while others are also trying to serve people like this. But I always felt that not everybody is able, one way or the other, to, to listen, to develop an opinion and then build it out the same way. So that means that when you think of any products in any category, usually there will be a moment where you go, I think these 2 or 3 are really good, and the others I'm not so sure about, even when you've tried them, or you can kind of compare them. So I think that there's always room in the market for top 2 or 3 solutions, same person for the same. So if you can, find yourself, in them, I think it doesn't matter who has the most customer, market share, or there's always room for really good products and really good solutions for actual businesses and actual people. So it was mostly people, dealing with sales, and has been, and I know about that, profile quite a lot from my own personal experiences, and also, when we're doing people. So it's not only a matter of throwing tons and tons of functionality and features towards people like this. It's much more understanding, like, what is the combination of features and the usefulness of them, and the ease of use as well. And I think just of those things helps a lot. And competition either very daunting when you think about it, or it can be a little bit in the back of your mind when you're really focused on the task at hand, which you have there. So I think it's a lot to do with mentality, but obviously then your own skill set, your own ability to make sense of what you need to build for the customers.
Okay. And my last question will not be about Pipedrive specifically, but about you yourself. For the last 10 years, you said you have been working hard, all your team. So how did you keep how was the work-life balance for you? And maybe how is it now, if anything is changing when you step down to become a CEO, to become when you step down from being a CEO to become the chairman? How is this effect on your personal life?
Well, first part of the question, I think it's a struggle. Whoever works hard at something, to have a good balance between what your work is requiring from you and what your family and personal, not only family, but your personal standard is requiring from you. Let's put it that way. So I think it's always a struggle, and I've had better days and worse days, and I don't think that I ever got it really right or really good, but at least I tried, even when doing the work from a CEO position. Yeah, it's usually one of the positions where if you really put your heart into this as well, you are affected by almost everything that happens in a company. It's you can't really compartmentalize and say, oh, this is not my business, or this is not my business. No, it's everything is your business. So that takes quite a lot. But for me, mentally, I had to work quite hard to again, like this is a topic maybe for a different discussion, but I had to work quite hard to understand what I can take in and what I can't take in, and how to rely on other people successfully. So yeah, balance tricky. After the change in the role and no longer being a CEO, obviously things changed so dramatically, and I knew that coming as well. So that has enabled me to focus on other areas quite a bit more, with investments and different parts which interest me.
All right. I hope you have some more minutes, because since we started a little bit later, and everybody, if you can stay, I will get questions from the audience, and in the end I will have a few surprise questions for you as well.
Oh.
But okay, as a non-tech person, how do you suggest building a minimum viable product to raise money?
Yeah, that's a good question. We tried two ways, and one way was the way that we only sort of tried but dumped quickly. So one way was that we used others helped to help us translate our thoughts into specifications, so that at one point we could deliver that engineers, and then engineers would build it, and it would be awesome. We only tried it, but never really went through or did anything like that. I would say that it's still much better. I know it's very, very difficult to find people like that, but working with an actual engineer, somebody who can code from description to reality, if you can't do it yourself, is it's just so much better. I've had experiences not only with Pipedrive but also in a few other sites. To do it like that, it's a tough thing to find these people and figure out why they would do it, and but that way you can at least. The reason I'm saying that is that way you can at least build the prototype to be exactly maybe what you really were thinking of. Otherwise, you can be lost in translation that I wouldn't suggest that to anybody, even though it's doable. But yeah, that's my preference, is to find a person at least who can help you translate the ideas code and kind of literally code them into reality, so that you can see, okay, that's what the product would look like, and that's what it would feel like to use it. Hopefully that helps.
All right. Sebastian from Peru, he says he's using Pipedrive since 2016, and he has several questions actually. What were the key decisions or projects you made or executed to make Pipedrive's growth independent from you and your founding team? And at what stage was this a key priority? A very good question, actually.
Yeah, very good one. Yeah, we were nudged by our mentors also in that world. So that's always good if you have good mentors in angel investors, for example, or outside of that group. There was a moment in time where we had an angel investor who told us that, guys, if you want to build a global, distributed global business, you have to have strong leaders. You just can't think that you as founders and managers just spend your time somewhere else and then magically there's a group of engineers that understands what is needed and then does that. So you have to have strong leaders in of them and in charge. And so was one which I think started the whole process of, and that was probably in 2013, the whole process of founder-based management team to a founder-less management team, if we can say that, or at least finding the executive managers who are really, really passionate and already having the skill set and capability of coming in, taking the vision of how to build up a certain part of the organization that you require, and then, you know, going from A to B to Z. And that's pretty much what we did in 2013 in our minds. And then through the next years, we tried to execute that, and I think we were able to do that. But at the same time, you know, it's very difficult to, I think, admit for everybody that somebody else is so much better in certain areas. But I think that's unavoidable if you want to have growth, unless you're able to do all the things really, really well and nobody else can beat you, or unless you have all the time of the world, which I don't think anybody has. I think that's still the way. It's figuring out who's a better person to do that than you are, founders are, and just, you know, giving them a chance to do that.
He's also asking the key aspects in choosing the right countries or geography for your expansion.
So that's again a good question, and in a sort of funny way to answer that for me, because we didn't set out with a list of countries that we want to go there, and there, and that's it. We set out with a, you know, global plan, as we called it, which is that we want to make sure that Pipedrive can be reached, found and reached and used globally. And our mindset was much more, whoever comes in that way, we should then figure out what is stopping them, or what are the obstacles. I'll give you one example. That way, at some point, probably 2011, we had a few Brazilian customers very early on. And we realized that most of them really struggled with bringing Pipedrive into their companies because of the language skills and language command. And Pipedrive was in English at the time, but that's why localization into Brazilian Portuguese became such a priority, because there were blocks somewhere, and that's how we used it all the time. Is who's coming in and what's stopping them, or what's causing the challenge, and they're trying to address it. And that's how we tried to prioritize. Obviously, the size of the market, I guess, had an effect. Obviously, but we never really set out with, here's the country, and that's where we're going. There were a few where we also wanted to do it that way, but mostly it wasn't.
Okay. And Lisa is asking, what are the qualities of a good leader? And she mentions you don't have to be the example yourself, maybe other leaders from Pipedrive or leaders you admire from other companies.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that people know who good leaders are. So I don't, because I have an outside view, and it's difficult to go in and say that's who's a good leader in a different group company. I like certain people, but I don't know if that's to conclude that they are good leaders. But very pragmatically, I think the characteristics of a good leader yield the result that you have people who follow. It's natural that if you have followers, if people want to join your company, or you personally, your company, movement, what you want to call it, then that means that in your own unique way, you have something there, right? So what are the characteristics? You need, I guess we can conclude from that what I just said. You probably inspire them by having some sort of an idea about what you want to do, because people are usually attracted to other people if they understand what is the thing that the other person wants to do, and if it feels like a good thing, like it's a noble mission or a great achievement or something like that, and we're drawn to these forward-looking people and forward-thinking people, not people who are worried about what will happen today or today, more like talking about how it's going to be different. We're going to have an in some time. So I think that is probably the case of as a characteristic, and then I think people really look at not only what you're saying or describing, but how you think about it, and that's one of the, I think, characteristics. You can't leave that out anytime. Is there an execution where people feel, okay, I can hold that. There's not only a saying doing from that person, which tells me that there's some integrity, that tells me that I can predict the world in this group, this organization, this company a little bit, and I can see myself contributing, and I can maybe also see this growing. That depends on how it goes. But as a leader, I would say two are the big starting points for me. And but there's so many different things that go into. I think pragmatically, I would say that just sort of vision and execution towards that. Other things are a matter of taste more. Some people like very, very open and extroverted people. Some people like people who don't talk much, and that's fine. So yeah, hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, good question, and very difficult to answer. I mean, one needs a long answer to elaborate.
Yeah.
Another question from EMR from Spain. How much has success of Pipedrive been dependent on your sales and marketing teams? Many startups have good products, but they are not able to deliver the message to potential clients.
Yeah, so Pipedrive story is also a story about how we don't have to excessively use investments, for sales and marketing, which is just one side of the story. We haven't gone overboard with trying to set up global sales and marketing resources, which are just draining us of resources every day and every. But at the same time, that from day one, we've been so lucky to have people who have been able to help us articulate what it is that we have, and figure out how that message gets in front of people that matter for our potential, spread of the word of mouth or spread in a certain group that you're after, spread in a certain partnerships that you're after. So those people we've always had at our disposal, let's put it that way, regardless of not spending too much on armies of salespeople or marketers, but having, that's what you said as well. It's you have to have really good articulation of what it is that and what you're trying to do, and then figure out also how to get that message in front of the people that you care about hearing about it. So those groups of marketers, I would say we've always had, and then we rely heavily on our customer support. Actually, to be honest, more than other roles. So once we have some kind of connection, we understand who our customers are and what the problems are. But that's our way of how we approached it. I don't even know if that was useful now, but that's my reflection.
Yeah. I will have last three questions because we have to finish at some point. Andre is asking which kind of strategy you had for acquiring the first subscribers.
I think it's similar to what I already described. First, okay. So very down to earth. We had 5 guys as co-founders, and we looked at everybody's contacts and tried to filter out the ones that we realized that maybe they're not really the prime suspects for our product, but everybody who we felt had to sell and was sharing a similar business model, we sent out the beta links and asked them to join and try the product out. And obviously at that time in 2010, after 3 months of coding, that was a product in a certain state. So there was no reason to ask for money, but it was mostly from that group that we got our. So I would say the numbers were, and I might be wrong here because that's only my memory, but let's say 600 or so people who got the message with a link in order to try out Pipedrive beta, and then over the span of 6 or 7 months, there's probably 20 to 40 active people and companies who actually kept using Pipedrive. And then out of those 20, 30, 40, we got our first, let's say 10 customers when we announced that Pipedrive is now going to be publicly available as a product. You can pay for it, and you have a free trial, obviously, but you can start paying right after. So that was the method for us to get our first subscribers.
Okay.
And then also, demos and helping them. So we did a lot of hand holding as well.
We have one question. Actually, you have answered it more or less. How did living in the Soviet Union affected Pipedrive and your thinking process? You had covered it in the beginning, but if you want to add something else.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, by that time, we had been independent for almost 20 years, 15, 20 years when we started Pipedrive. But I think that people who are restricted, they had to use resources, and they have to be quite resourceful. So maybe a little bit of that, but at the same time, if you're restricted also by freedom of movement or limited freedom of movement or limited freedom of action or speech, it's so rusty. You haven't practiced those areas of going out and doing certain things. So for me, I personally felt that after Estonia got independent, I felt many areas where I didn't know if that was enough. For example, learning English as a foreign language in Soviet Union, I really felt very comfortable with the level that I was getting to. So I started to learn it at a side and make sure that I had a good level, because I didn't think that's a good enough level. Also, business human or understanding what what business means coming out of a communist country and then spending a few years in a country very young, seeing other Scandinavian countries around which have been in free market situation for years, and after this Cold War, try to make sure that and what that is as well. So yeah, I think we were quite rusty at the beginning, maybe resourceful, but I don't know if that really had an impact on Pipedrive, to be honest. That's very big speculation.
Right. So last question from the audience. How do you achieve not losing touch with your customers and employees in a quickly growing company? And can you?
Yeah, that is difficult, I think. How do you stay in touch? Personally, you can't stay in touch with tens and tens of thousands of customers. There's just every realizes that's really difficult. That's still possible. Some people reach out directly, and there's still a way to respond, and but that can't be a rule. So that's where we've relied on training and giving a chance to people who really want to spend time with customers. And our customer support group is the second largest group in a company, next to engineering. So that's our way, is to make sure that there's a human on the other side of a case or a problem. But personally, for me, or internally inside the organization, you can have all the tools, and I guess then the question becomes whether you are approachable rather than whether the tool is there, because the door seems open. Everybody can type in a direct message and ask things from you, but it must feel that you're the type of person who can be approached, I guess, as well. And then once that question comes in, or request or comment, then it's a matter of whether you have time enough to respond. I guess that's the way. I guess I'm also learning what's the best way to do that. It's easier with immediate teams and immediate groups, but with everybody, when it becomes hundreds and hundreds of people, it's really a challenge. And I think that it's okay that you're not able to do that with everybody, because you probably have a job which requires you to focus on creating something, and also being for people. They're there for people, but not for everybody all the time. But for some people, some of the time, definitely.
All right, thank you very much. And yeah, before we wrap up, I will shoot you a few very quick questions, and you reply without thinking too much, and quick answers.
All right, let's see if that works.
Yeah, ready? Winter or summer?
I say summer right now, but winter's good too.
Beer or wine?
Oh, jeez, good wine.
Any nickname you have had, if you had one?
Oh yeah, I had weird nicknames. It doesn't make sense to anybody outside of Estonia. I had a nickname in school, Volt, which is a short version from Estonian Voldemar or Vladimir in Slavic languages. I don't know how it came from, some kind of a cartoon, I guess. It's a very good way of getting a nickname.
All right. Morning person or a night owl?
Both, if I can say that.
Okay, you work really hard. Favorite type of music?
Melodic and rhythmic.
On a plane, window or aisle seat?
Window.
Me too. Something on your bucket list, but not business related?
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know if that really is this sort of bucket questions. I want to understand human health a lot better than I do right now. So that's a bucket list of going into the mental sphere more than a physical place or doing a physical action. But yeah, learning about health and human health, that's definitely one.
Favorite food?
Rye bread, maybe.
Favorite country?
Oh, you're gonna either hate this question or you think that I'm some kind of a weird person. Any country I would love, if you take away people, because quite often people make a mess of the place. But that's not a good answer to anybody who comes from any country. So I really don't have a favorite country in that sense.
All right. Work-related call on Sunday, you answer or reject?
If it's from a colleague, I answer.
Something you are terrible at?
Memorizing So what is it? Feminizing factual events, names of people. So everything I said in the last hour could be wrong.
Cat or dog?
Dog, I think.
Unicorn or dog?
What was that?
No, that was
Okay.
Yeah, that was the last question. So Timo, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
Seriously, I hope and I'm sure it has been very useful to the audience and people who have been listening. If you can give a virtual applause or something, we cannot see or hear you, but maybe you can write on the chat some comments. Thank you very much for your time. And yeah, and for the rest of you, there will be virtual events again every month, roughly every month. So please follow the chapter. If you can join the chapter, you will get all the updates, and we will announce the next event very soon. We have great speakers in the pipeline. So again, to remind, we are also looking for sponsors, partners, and great speakers for the following months. So if you have something to say, just get in touch with me. And this was the very first event after the relaunch of the chapter. So probably it was not perfect. I mean, from my side or technical side or whatever. So just give us some feedback. So I will do things better in the next one. And that's it. Thank you once again, Timo.
Thank you, Engin. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. So have a good evening or day wherever you are. Bye-bye, everyone.